efficient. Um, what someone has available for to them for use as in the sense of plants and in the sense of goods, all of these things go into how you practice. So
So
with
it's
that being
really not about having something in particular. Like it really comes out of a history of
yes,
using what's available to you.
what exactly,
Okay.
from even the simplest items, the simplest objects, is what we're working with, because it has to be accessible. Like hoodoo is about accessibility. um, and so also, if you do go into study of this, if you do want to learn more about this, what you'll find is that there are a lot of roots. It's also called conjure root work. There are a lot of roots that do the same thing. They are used for the same things, and it really is the concept of what can you get? What can you get a hold of? What can you grow? What can you buy? What can you borrow? Um, versus I need this exact thing. I need this. I just Angelica root's the only thing that'll work. Like, nah, girl, like go get yourself some chamomile and keep it moving. Like because the point is you have to keep moving. You have to remember,
Hmm.
you have to be able to move on, you have to get the work done, and you have to be able to live your life, right? So what is the honey jar? Now we're going to bring it down to specifics. Um, and oh, also at the end of this, I do want to have time for questions. So if you have any questions for me about hoodoo, about the honey jar specifically, about its opposite end, the sour jar, which I will talk about, but we are not putting together a sour jar. um, then please let me know. Leave them in the chat. We'll read them off. But I do want to leave that space. So if you're thinking, oh, I have a question, leave it in the chat so that we can get it addressed. So, what is the honey jar? The
Hmm.
honey jar is a jar full of honey, literal honey. That is what we are working with. We are working with honey, we are working with herbs, we are working with curios. This is a very hands on, intentional process to go through. So, your first step is to gather your materials. And even if you don't know anything about hoodoo, even if you don't know anything about any sort of spiritual practice, this is your first step in being very intentional in the work. The jar itself is literally a jar, like a jar. This is the jar I drink coffee out of. Glass jar, metal lid. You want it to be metal because you're going to put a candle on top of it, and plastic will melt. So, glass jar, metal lid. It does not have to be a fancy jar. It does not have to be a brand new jar. A jar that is left over from when you make spaghetti is fine. A jar that previously held peaches is fine. A mason jar picked up from a thrift store, fine. All of these things are fine as long as it's got a metal lid and the jar itself is glass. You're fine. So that is your vessel. That is your first thing. That is the object you're going to put things into. Your next big thing is going to be honey or some other sweetener. You want it to be a sweetener. You want it to not rot. And that's
Hmm.
why we use honey.
Hmm.
Honey does not go bad. Honey lasts literally forever. It will never, ever go rotten on you. It will always be sweet. And here we are with like to like, because honey is sweet and is a preservative. And we are trying to make something that will bring sweetness into our life, that will
Hmm.
build our life, that we can hold on to and last forever. You don't want to use something that's going to go bad. If you
Like
Google,
sugar water or
like
something.
sugar water, I was just about to talk about the sugar water. If you Google honey jar, because it's a popular practice, if you Google this, some people will tell you that you can use sugar water. They'll be like, just mix up some sugar water, just mix up some tea, right? Sweet tea. Um, and they'll say that that's good enough. The problem with those things is that they will rot, they spoil, they go bad. Juice, which is very sweet, ferments and it goes bad and it will smell.
Or explode, and that's not what you
Or
want.
it will explode. Soda will also, like soda, some people will say, oh, use soda, which is like sugar water that will also cause problems. It will dehydrate, it'll get sticky. Um, all of these things have the aspect of sweetness, but they don't have any staying
Mhm.
power. And you want the thing that has both, which is why we use honey. Another option is to like fill a jar up with sugar, which you could do because sugar also is basically shelf stable. Um, it's not aesthetically as pleasing, and this seems like it's a very shallow thing, but when you are making this jar, it exists not just as the work itself, as the thing you want, but also an object that you are going to have uh, constant interaction with. It is not a one and done process. You will come back to this. So if you have a jar full of sugar, that becomes a jar full of sugar. It is not a jar full of your desires. It's like having a jar full of sand, right? It becomes almost invisible. Whereas something that is got that sort of transparent quality allows you to still see, to still track the things that you're doing, to understand those changes, remind yourself why you put these things together and what these things together were to begin with. Um, I made my first honey jar years ago, years ago. And I can't tell you exactly what was in there, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, yes, the horseshoe, the quarter. This is why I did these things. This is what I was trying to get. This is what I was working towards. So, allowing it to be something that is more transparent so that you can still see what is happening to me is very important. You might disagree. I know some people have used hard candy because
Mhm.
again, it will last. It'll last forever. um, but it lacks the quality of movement that I like to see. But that's me. This is your jar. You are
Yeah.
free to use which feels good, use what makes sense to you. That's how this all works. So your first thing is your jar, your honey. You've got, and honey is any honey, okay? It does not need to be special. You don't have to order specialty honey from a beekeeper in your from your homelands. That's nice, but not necessary. It could be just the honey from the grocery store, the kind that comes in Little Bear or the fake honeycomb. Like it's that's fine. That's perfectly fine and good. It's just the honey from the dollar store, okay?
Can we, if we have some with honeycomb in it, can you use that?
You can because that the honey will preserve it. It's fine. Um, I would use it for my toast, but that's just me. So once you have those two things,
Mhm.
your next two big parts are your curios and your herbs. So we're gonna do the curios first. Because what you're doing is you're putting together what you are trying to draw into your life. Now, you
Mhm.
may have some ideas, you may have some concepts, you may go, I want a better job. That's not really, that's a real short term though, right? So the honey jar is something that has a very long lifespan.
Okay.
Honey is slow, honey lasts forever. So you want to really try and think about something or what you want in your life that is very long term. Not just I want something in my life right now. This is not good work for that. You are looking to really think about what do you want to bring in your life forever? What do you want to have in your life that helps you define it, that brings it together, that gives you joy and peace and like will take your life to the place you want it to be. And that's the reset part of this. That is this kind of practice. That's why we're building this. Um, and that's a big question to answer. That's a
Mm.
big question because how often do we sit down with ourselves and really think, this is an aspect of my life that I want to continue past this moment. We're very focused in right now and the things that we need now. I need a new car, I need a new job, I need a new man, like, like these things that you want to replace, that you want to improve, but what do you want to bring into your life from now till forever? What do you want to last in your life? Is that your peace? Is that your joy? Is that stability? Because it can be stability, it can be financial, it can be aspects of the home like that. But when you're building this, you got to think about more than just a temporary thing that you need. Like if you say, I need a new job, right? Okay, so how are we, once we get that, then what? Do we stop working our job? Do we um, look for the next new job because you've got it? So what's the jar for then? Do we try to segue to, I'm looking for wealth? Like I'm looking for a stability. You have to kind of move it towards those things. So, with that in mind, with understanding that we're looking towards kind of bigger picture ideas that we can spread throughout our lives, the curios should reflect that. And you get to decide what your curios mean. They're yours. What is a curio? I'm just using this word. A, a curio is a small fetish item.
Okay.
Um, so they can be a number of things, but what
Can
they
you
are,
define further a small fetish item? So
yes.
that would be so, and what is a fetish in this context?
So a fetish in this context is something that has some sort of spiritual value to
Okay.
the person who
Okay.
is holding it, right?
Okay.
Um, not whippets and chains, different fetish. Um, and a small fetish item would be a small item. It's going to be something that can fit inside of your jar. Um, and within hoodoo, there are a number of standard fetishes. Um, so, are a number of standard curios. So, things like railroad spikes would be one
Okay.
of the things that you would kind of traditionally hear. You're not, it's not good for this work. That is for a different kind of work, but that is a very common one that comes up.
Mm,
For this kind of work, I would suggest, depending on what you're doing, you
mm,
can use coins. You
mm.
can use shells and beads, and like cowrie shells are very popular, but you can also just use like seashells, like small ones, if they have some sort of, if you are aligned with them, um stones. There's in mines, there is a stone I do, rocks and minerals. They have always meant a lot for me, that kind of connection. I have a rose quartz in mine. uh Feathers, anything. Oh, I just saw, what do coins represent? Wealth usually, but they can also do luck, depending on the coin. Um, they could also be a personal connection to you. Are there any ones that will interact negatively? Can't read the whole thing. Are there any materials that would interact negatively with honey, like a chemical reaction? No, not normally. Not anything that you would just normally have on hand to to do this. Honey tends to be, it's very stable.
Mm, mm.
um, so it's not something that you can inadvertently mix with something else to cause a reaction. And pretty much everything that you would have on hand would be fine. Um, they also use honey as like a preservative.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
um, so what else can we put in there? Another thing to think about, and I have this written down in the handout, is playing cards or even tarot cards that line up with uh, what you want to bring to your life, right? So like if you are like, I would like to have more wisdom in my life, you can like put a high priestess card in there. uh, Aesthetically, it becomes pleasing. And then your other piece of this is the herbs that you
Mm.
are looking to use, because this is root work. So how do the herbs work? There are a lot of herbs. There's a lot of roots. Uh, Anyone who's ever been inside of a like spiritual shop has
Mhm.
probably seen the wall of herbs. There's a ton. Some are edible, some are not edible. For the purpose of a honey jar or any other kind of work that you do in hoodoo, neither of those things matter. Whether you can eat it or not is irrelevant. You're not ingesting this honey. You are not ingesting this honey. There's no eating of this honey. Once it's part of this work, you don't eat it anymore.
Okay.
Just in case that wasn't clear. Can you use plastic items? Yes, your curios can be plastic. That is fine.
Right.
Anything that's going into the honey can be plastic. The reason that we use glass and metal for the jar and the lid is because of the candle. But the stuff inside the honey, safe, fine, no issue. You can go ahead and throw all of the little plastic tchotchkes you want in there. um, for the herbs, all of the herbs have meanings, but as I said in the beginning, a lot of them have the same meaning. So I've listed a couple so I have three basic uh, subjects that I put in the handout for you: wealth, health, and peace. Uh, you don't have to go with those. This is your honey jar. Those were just my major like ideas. But so if you were looking for wealth, if you were hoping that your business, I am so sorry if you can hear that noise in the background. That is one of my children. um, if you're looking for business or career or just wealth in general, because I support just being independently wealthy for doing nothing, actually. I love freedom that way. Then something you can use: cinnamon, comfrey, nutmeg, thyme, all of these good, solid options, right? If you're doing health, anise, ginseng, rosemary, um, also like fine. For peace, lavender, rosebuds, cloves. I love a good rosebud.
Mhm.
um, those are also fine. But you can also throw in some rosemary for wealth. You can use chamomile for peace and health and wealth. You can use thyme for peace. Like all of these things don't just work in one way.
Mhm.
So the biggest takeaway is see what you have. You do not need to go to a specialty store to get your herbs. You do not need to start an herb garden, although if you want to, this is a perfect excuse to do so. You don't have to do those things. If you Yes, I actually use bay leaves to write my petition. I was going to talk about them in a second. um, but if you only have access to a grocery store, go to the grocery store. If you only have access to what you have in your cabinets right this minute, just see what you have in your spice cabinet. Again, this is about accessibility. This is about working with what you have. And if all you have is the things that you have on hand, if all you have is the dollar store down the street and those tiny packets of dried herbs, if that's all you have, use it. Use it. Put it in the jar. Like, that's fine. Because it's more important to do the work than to have any sort of specialty items for the work. Use what you have. If all you have for curios is the change in your purse
Mm.
and a couple of beads from a bracelet you broke, use them. Use them.
And it's going to mean more than if you go and like break the bank, trying to buy, a bunch of supplies from Amazon,
Yes.
because when our ancestors were practicing this, when they were, repairing some of the bonds that were broken, through our enslavement, they used what they had. They really did. And yeah, so it's not, I know that sometimes you'll hear certain work requires certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go out and break the bank buying particular things. This is about your
Absolutely.
kitchen and your resources.
Yes. Never ever think that you have to have any sort of high quality specialty item for any of this work. Any of it. Seriously, I am dead serious about this. Use what you have. You are absolutely welcome if you are in a place to and you feel called to and it's what you desire to go out and buy specialty things. Like if you decide that you really want to use fresh lavender and you're like, I'm gonna buy this. And if you have the means and that would bring you joy, do it. But if you don't, you do not feel that you have to. Do not feel like you have to go out of your way. Do not feel like you have to buy a specialty jar. Don't feel like you have to get a special honey. Like none of that. Like this is really about what you have to move forward to what you want.
Mhm.
And it's based in what you have being able to grow. So that is for me a key part because this is supposed to be fulfilling to you and I can't imagine that you will feel better and good about yourself if you're like, okay, well, I spent rent money on and grown herbs. I feel like you would feel worse. So simple herbs, simple curios, the honey, the jar. We put these things together, right? Like that is the next step. And it is literally the next step. You put your items, your herbs in the jar.
After you put the honey. So you
No,
have to,
or you put the honey.
okay.
So because it's a liquid. Well, it's not a liquid. It like exists in like a weird double space. Um, so you put all of the stuff you're going to put in the jar with one extra thing that I almost forgot to talk about: the petition. Um, so you've thought about what you want. You know what you are going to put your energy and work towards. Write it on a small piece of paper, right? Just a scrap of paper, maybe this big, because it's got to go in the jar. Brown paper is traditional. So, like, brown, like, paper bags. Brown paper is traditional. Don't feel like you have to do that. Use what you have. If you have a piece of a journal entry or a piece of a journal page, use it. If all you have is a piece of junk mail, then that's what you have. Use that. I used bay leaves.
Okay.
um, Literally, I took a bay leaf and a sharpie and I wrote on that, and that is perfectly fine. Put it in the jar. Um, that bay leaves are often used by people for their petitions, either in working in a honey jar or just general petitions that they then turn into burn or bury or float down rivers. Bay leaves are they have become a way to kind of catch all with that. And I actually love that. They're biodegradable. It feels very magical. I love a bay leaf. So you put
And
that.
what exactly is a petition?
Okay, yes, good question. So a petition is what you want.
Okay.
Um, So my rule of thumb is that my petitions are generally I try to boil it down to the least amount of words possible. So one word, if at all possible, for me, because I also score my candles with my word, like whatever the thing I'm trying to get. So I like scrawl that into the candles before I burn them. That's not everyone's practice. Some people have long petitions and they just write small, which respect. But the petition is what you want. So if you, for example, are looking for a more peaceful home, um, which lovely. If that's your petition, how I would do that is I would just write peace. I would boil it right down to that single word. Um, but you may just write a peaceful home, a quiet home, a
Yeah.
soft home. You could just write softness. Um, all of those are fine, but your petition is really what you want. So by this point, and why you go through all these steps is because by this point you've gone through, you've got your cereals that you have thought about and you've put together, you've picked intentionally, you've got your herbs that you have thought about, that you have decided this is the mix of herbs I'm going to use here, and you've done that work. So when you're writing your petition, you're like, this is what I want. I know this is what I want. And you're able to really boil it down to the single set to a single sentence or even a single word. Um, and then you put that in your jar on your piece of paper. You want it to be something sturdy. You want your page to be sturdy. That's really the only guidance that I think is necessary for this, only because you're putting it inside of a liquid. So if you put like a piece of tissue paper inside the honey, well, it's not going to last. It's going to disintegrate in there. It's just not going to be able to, the bond's not going to be able to hold up. Um, so I would, brown paper, bay leaf, the bay leaf is going to last forever in there. Um, Anything like that, piece of watercolor paper if you're an artist. Um, which I have in abundance. So anything like that, but something that is paper, plant material, pen,
Mm-hmm.
marker, write it down, put it in. And then you top the whole thing with honey. And the reason that which is very anticlimactic sounding, right? And the reason we put our items in before the honey is because it's going to take up space. So if you
Exactly.
fill the jar with honey first and then you try to put items in it, the honey may overflow. And this way, you've already got the stuff in there, you put honey on top of it, you're not going to make a mess. This is just a practical thing to do. Otherwise, you're going to be pressing things into honey. It's going to be messy. Uh, you don't want to have to clean up honey. So you've got all that. Close your jar, right? You've got your curios, you got your herbs, honey's in there. Put your lid on your jar. It's very pretty. Oh my gosh, you could turn it and spin it and look at it. You're like, oh, it's so pretty. Um, so now it's the work part. Okay.
Mm.
So that was a work, but now it's the continual work part of this. Honey jars are charged. And what we mean by that is we are putting a candle on it and we are lighting a candle periodically on this jar. So my active jar I did once a month. But that was
Okay.
my schedule, right? I have known people who have done them every week. I have known people who did it every 6 months. People who did it once a
Meaning
year.
burn the candle.
Burn the candle, yeah.
Okay.
That is the work. That is the ongoing work of this practice, of this particular practice. So what's the candle? So I use chime candles.
Hmm.
A chime candle is a small candle that burns for about an hour, like give or take. They can be found in dollar stores, corner stores. They are usually listed as emergency candles. Uh,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the term penny candles. That is not something I've heard of, but I can say that These are different from like the kind of candles that are used for like Hanukkah. Uh, so Hanukkah candles are also very small candles that burn for a short amount of time. These ones are a little bit different. Tea light candles are the ones in the little metal tin. They do burn quickly. I don't use them because they're inside their little metal tin. And I don't know, they don't always come out cleanly for me.
And you want the wax to burn on top of so like the wax like covering it is kind
Yeah,
of what you want.
you want your wax to this is going to be an item. You want
Okay.
your wax to be spilling off. Very gothic of it, actually. So what you would do, and this is why it's important that your lid is metal.
Okay.
Um, so you would do is you would take another candle. So I keep a lot of candles. So I usually take a tea light candle, for example, or like a little votive candle, and I will light that to melt some wax to use to drop onto the top to hold the chime candle. Right. So the chime candle is my ritual candle. Those are the candles that I use for my rituals. Some people do use um, votives. Some people do use tea light. So I'm certainly not saying that you cannot. I think if that is what is available, if you have some laying around, that which most of us do, right? If you have some laying around, perfect, awesome, I love that. But I use chime candles, and
I get mine from the dollar store. They're about this big,
yeah,
like
they're yeah,
about 4 to 6 inches. They're small.
they're very small. They burn for about an hour ish. Um, and they do come in a variety of different colors.
Mhm.
This is one of the few things that I do actually buy, right? That I am like, I spend money on this item. They're not expensive. I get them from Amazon. I get like a box of them from Amazon. Um, and I think they're a little bit more expensive than they are if you buy them from a corner store, only because the box I get from Amazon has different colors in it. Right?
Oh,
It's got multiple colors. Um, and the thing about the colors, so let's talk about candles.
okay.
Uh, I choose chime candles because they burn quickly. I strongly believe anytime you are doing most of this work, unless it calls for otherwise, you need to use candles that are not going to burn forever. You probably don't live a life where you can sit by an open flame for 5 hours while it burns down.
Right.
And when you're working something like the honey jar, like this is not a candle sitting inside of a glass. This is a candle sitting on top of a jar, obviously probably on something fireproof, right? I use a baking dish, like an old, not a baking dish, but an old baking sheet, like the kind you use for cookies. Um, you know how you get those ones that you've cooked on too much and now they're kind of grody? I use one of those. Recycling. So it's on a fireproof surface and it's mostly safe, but at the same time, I have two cats and I have children, and I want to be able to devote a full intentional moment to my work.
Yeah, I was going to say it's about attention. So,
Yes,
and it's a sort of meditation.
yes,
So the time that the candle is burning, you're using that time to reflect on the sweetness and your intentions in the jar. Yes.
yes. And also my spiritual practice. Um, so Misty, of course, knows, and some other people, I saw some homies, know I moved from Pennsylvania to Minnesota. And I had full altar space that I don't have here because of my circumstances. But during the time when I did, I used that time too to straighten up my altar and visit some of the other deities and entities that I had to do work for and do all these other kind of spiritual tasks. So this work of working my jar, of charging my jar, wasn't just about me. It became about my spiritual practice and my belief system and spending time and devoting energy into that, which then feeds back into the things I was looking for with my work that I was doing, that feeds back into me as a full realized person in that space. So that's why you don't want one that's going to be burning for 5 hours, because at the end of hour one, you're going to be like, wow, this is taking a while. I don't know if I can do this any longer. Um, so it's practical and it's safety.
Mhm.
Chime candles, or if you're going to use tea lights, you can also do this. Um, the colors of the candles mean things.
Mm, okay.
Uh, so white is a multi-purpose color. White can be used for anything. You like, it doesn't matter. Like the white candle is any and all, right? So if all you can get a hold of is white candles, that's fine. No worries. Like that's cool. Um, but the other colors that you might get are red, which is a power color. Green is wealth, but it is also health. Uh, Pink is often used for love. Blue for peace. Yellow is kind of a joy color. I want to bring happiness and light. Um, but you can use any of these colors. So you can decide that you want to do like a specialty color for your work, or you can decide that you're just going to get white candles. Or if you can't find white candles and all you can find is blue, and your thing is about taking on more of your own power and like more of your own self, and you're like, I really want it red, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The thing that I do that is not mandatory, none of this is mandatory, it's your practice. uh but the thing that I do is that I actually mark my candle. So I have a needle, like small, like pin needle, like sharp edge, and I mark my candles with my like petition word in the side. I also dress my candles. And
Mhm.
this is a general, so this is a general knowledge. And again, you don't have to do this, but dressing candles is when you put put a little bit of oil on the candles with an herb, um, while meditating on what you would like to accomplish with the candle before you light it. You don't want to go overboard with the oil. You don't want to like douse it in oil. You don't need to do that. Just a little bit of oil. It's a ritual thing, um, before you set it up. That oil can be, again, once again, what you have. It can be olive oil. It could be safflower oil. It could be, I probably wouldn't use canola oil, but if all you have is some vegetable oil, little tiny bit, okay?
You know what else I do? And I don't know if this is a part of other people's practice, but just a little.
Ooh, okay. There you
Yeah.
go. Um, that's like little things. um, but again, if you don't want to do that, you don't have time and space for that, it's fine. That's a completely optional, up to you, what feels good, what feels grounding to you in those moments. So when you have that done, your candle set up, you light your candle. Make sure that you are working somewhere safe. This is fire. I feel compelled to give safety advice and tips. But it's on a stable surface. You don't have to worry about it falling over. You don't have to worry about anyone reasonably knocking it over. It is out of a draft, so that it does not unintentionally get blown out by the draft. It's just in a nice, calm, safe, stable place. And you just let the candle burn. The
Away from your
candle
curtains.
away from your curtains, hanging clothes. If you're on an altar, away from anything else that may be flammable on the altar. Um, I've seen, I have seen people like surround their stuff with fault like fake flowers, like plastic. I wouldn't do that, honestly.
Yeah.
I This is fire, okay? It's fire and hot wax. Don't do that. So once it's set up, then you just let it burn. Let the candle burn down. Let the candle cover the lid. Now it's a chime candle. It's not going to leave much wax. Sometimes the wax burns away completely. Uh, no worries about that. Don't don't become obsessed with that, because the more candles you burn, the more time you put into this, the more you charge it and you mention, you will see wax build up. um it's almost a visual passing of time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just another way for you to connect with this thing, with this object, and like really see physically, especially because with this kind of work it's not always obvious the way things are moving, the way things are happening. um but you can see that you've put in this time because there's wax there. You can see that change for yourself and know that you are doing this process, that you are engaged in this process. And to me, that is what this is all about. So you should see, like, your honey jar is your honey jar, right? What you put in there is what you've put in there. Your reasons for doing so are your own reasons for doing so. You can have multiple honey jars, some people do, um, for different aspects of your life. That's fine. It's this is not this is not a situation that you're like there can be only one. You can have 15 of them if you want it. Uh, so what is this thing when you're done? This becomes not just an art object, right? Because it is going to be I think, okay, that they're aesthetically pleasing. They're very pretty when they're done. So it is in of itself an art product, but it is also a statement for you, your desires, where
Mm.
you're at when you were making this. For me, I know my honey jar was made out of a little glass vessel that was a fruit jar that I found in this store that doesn't exist anymore. I've never seen this kind of fruit before or since. Like, it was peaches inside, but the way the jar was made, I've never seen another jar like that. It was very cute. But like, that is a record of the me that was existing at that time too. That is a record of all of these various things that was happening. The things I put into the jar, they are a record of what was available to me, what I understood about myself, about my desires at that time. It is a little living record. And I know it's just not alive, but it is in a way, in a spiritual way. It is alive.
Energetically, yeah.
Yeah. Um, it is something that you interact with, something that I interact with, to say, oh, this is a part of my life. This is a thing that has meaning to me. And that's why I think the honey jar is such a good personal reflection and a good personal way to interact with, of course, with specifically the practice of hoodoo. And whether or not you want to continue on that practice, whether or not you want to learn more and like explore more of that and perhaps find your own lineage in that practice, seek out more community in that practice, is irrelevant, because even if you just do this one thing, if you never engage again with hoodoo, this one thing I think has the potential to be so empowering for the individual. I know that it meant a lot to me, even when I was going through the things I was going through, to be able to go, this is what I want. This is who I want to be. I made this and I still believe in me.
Yes.
So that is why I think the honey jar the honey jar is the way to go. Um, so now I want to open the floor up to questions. I know I answered a couple in the chat. Um, but yeah, questions about the process of making the honey jar or hoodoo in general or anything else really. I'm here, whatever. What do you got? I'll answer it.
Would you just repeat the last thing you said? I think you said something. I just heard. This is I made this, and I still believe in me. That concept.
Yeah, it's something when regardless of what is happening in your life, you are able to look back on this item and say, I made this. This is what I wanted. This is what I believed in at this time. And I am still here. I am still working on this. And I still believe in myself.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And about how long would you keep a honey jar?
You keep it for as long as you want to. You keep it forever. I still have mine.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me see if it's working for me. Google Drive. Is
Mm.
it okay? Okay. So is me I can't is asking for permission. So maybe the handout you need to make sure that we have permission for it
oh, maybe I
on the
do.
document. And also, if you want to give me your email address, I'll make sure that everyone has links and whatnot. I put links to Donyae's books in the chat. I don't like to send folks to Amazon, but I could not find her hoodoo book on bookshop.org.
Oh, it used to be. Yeah, I send Misty your emails or drop your emails in the chat at even oh my gosh, what happened to my Zoom window? That was weird. Yeah, send Mindy, sorry, Misty, sorry, um, your emails, and we will make sure that you get that document.
Mindy, I like that. I do have a question also.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of folks will do work around oh, and Farrellyn, the document is up further in the chat. And right now we're working on opening the permissions so that we can all see it. And I have your email, Farrellyn, so I'll definitely send out a follow-up with the link, with the instructions. So my question was that I know a lot of people want to do work around like things like love, and that wasn't one of the things that you mentioned that you could use it for. I think I have an answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually thought about this because I was like, it's going to come up. It always comes up. It always comes up. So, the doc should, oh, I don't know why I'm typing this. The document, by the way, before I jump into that, the document should allow you guys entry now. So,
Okay.
give it a try. Let me know in the chat if it doesn't. So, love work. So, here's the thing. I, and to me, the entire practice of hoodoo does not put any restriction on doing work for love. Okay. There's a ton of work around love
Mhm.
when you start learning more about the practice. Like, so much, so much. Um, so certainly you can. Here's what I think about that as a person who's a practitioner, as a person who lives in the world that we live in. If you are hoping to do this work to draw love into your life, that is one thing, right? If you are doing this to say, I want to bring more love to myself, I want to bring that sort of, I want to bring that energy, I want to bring those relationships, whatever that may mean, right? To my life. I want a life filled with love. I love that. That's beautiful. But I also think if you are doing this work to try and fix a relationship or force a relationship,
Talk about it.
I don't know if I would suggest that because I'm not saying it won't work, right? Like it probably will. But if you are doing this labor in a situation that has a secondary or more people involved. But you are the one who is doing all of this labor to make it work, to make it happen. And they're not. You're the one lighting the candles, you're the one writing the petitions, and they are just existing within this sphere of your power. Then you may want to sit back and think about that relationship a little bit more.
Yeah.
And if doing that labor and being the only one who's doing that labor is really how you want to live the rest of your life.
I didn't even think about it like that. I was thinking along the lines of, like, if you wanted long-term partnership, or even if you were like, look, I want to have fun, so I'm trying to draw lots of partners to me. I want to date all these girls. I want to date all these boys. Um, I think that's fine, but working on a particular person, I think now you're messing with somebody else's free will. You're going to make it messy.
I think if you want to draw, like, if that's what you want, right? If you want to draw, like, I want to date all the people, which, go ahead, girl. I hope they buy you dinner. Like, I am for it. There's better work for that.
Mm-hmm.
Better, faster work for that. If you are dealing with like specific relationships, there's better, faster work for that. And I would point you in that direction over using a honey jar for that. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to sit with your honey jar. You're the one. So that, I think, is something that I would consider if I was looking at love work. If I was doing something for love with a honey jar, it would be focused on myself. Oh, and I don't know, Rhonda? Did I say it right? Yay! Yeah, I see you have your hand up, so I assume you have a question.
Tanya can go first. She had her hand up before I.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Just
Oh,
go.
I see it now. It was like blended into the background.
My question is, I have two questions actually. The first one is regarding broken items. So I've heard
Okay.
said that broken items in the home should be repaired if you want to keep them, but if not, you should toss them because they could possibly bring bad luck or misfortune. So would putting a broken item in the honey jar adversely affect the intention?
Good question. So I think there's a lot of nuance there. Because things can be broken in many ways. Right? So if you have a broken item, like if you have a broken chair, right? I mean, obviously you can't put a broken chair in a honey jar. Imagine the size of that honey jar. Anyway, so if you have a broken chair in your house and you're like, it's still kind of, if you're careful, you can still sit on it. And I really love this chair. I don't want to get rid of it. It's heirloom, right? Like that becomes an item that you're like, I need to make a decision about this item, right? Because this is not really functional any longer as a thing it is supposed to be, even though I'm like, it reminds me of my grandfather and that's why I want to keep it and hold on to this thing. And like, if that's the case, then I need to repair it so that I can keep this relationship and keep this memory alive, right? Versus something like, I think I used a broken necklace in my example earlier, versus something like that, right? Like a broken piece of jewelry, something that was once beaded and now it's been broken and it is no longer functional as a necklace, right? Because now it's in parts. But in that case, it's in parts. And those parts are still functional on their own. There are things that become broken that maybe they're no longer functional, but they still hold meaning. And if they are small things like that, then yes, you can use them as part of your honey jar. You can use them as a curio in your bone reading set. I mean, if you if you get into that. Those things are fine. No, will not adversely affect the honey jar itself. Unless you're like, this is a broken ring from my marriage and I'm putting it in here because I want to repair the marriage. Like, no, like that's not going to work. Like that would have an adverse effect spiritually. But if it's something that is broken, but it still holds that value and it still holds that meaning for you, then it is fine. And I think that that is actually a perfect spot to put it. Mm.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about like bracelets that I have, like
Mhm.
stone bracelets, like a rose quartz bracelet or clear quartz bracelet or something like that,
Yeah,
broken, and I still have the beads. And I'm like, with putting those beads in
that
the
is
honey jar.
100% fine. Because it's again like those are still beads. Like those they're still functionally the thing that they are. They have been broken into parts at that point.
Or like a broken cowrie shell. Would that be an issue?
I think that one definitely is nuanced because you have to think about like what that cowrie shell is representing for you. So like if you are using the cowrie shell as so there's a couple like if you have it, it has sentimental value. Like I picked this up on a beach when I was 5. Like broken or not, like that, it's still fine. If you are like this was part of a divination set that is now no longer functional, is broken, I probably wouldn't use that. Like it has now moved outside of its purpose.
Mhm.
If you're like, I found this on the street and it was already cracked and it reminds me of my ancestors, I think that's fine because it has this other meaning and nuance versus or even if you're like, I just picked this up and it reminds me of the beach and I think it's pretty. That's fine. But like if that break makes it non-functional and it's no because the cowrie shell is no longer a part of a thing, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just the shell. It's non-functional. It no longer holds any meaning, then I would say not to use it. It would even if it doesn't adversely affect, it's also not helping.
Yeah. Like if things are coming from a place of scarcity or fear that you're not going to be able to, find something else, whereas it's coming from a place of meaning or like your creativity, then use
Yeah.
it. Yes. Okay.
Have we answered all your questions?
Oh, yes. Well, you know what? I have one more, but I'll put it in the chat.
Okay,
I think you may have answered it, but I'm not sure. So I can put it in the chat.
great. Then Tanya.
Thank you. Let me put my hand down. Hi, Misty. I had a couple of questions. My first one was, do you cleanse the items before placing them in the jar or bless them in some way? And then my second question was, I'm not admittedly like a ritualistic person, and I was just curious about what your practice looks like when you're crafting space to fill the jar, lighting the candle. Like, do you bring like a song or a prayer or a thought? What time of day? Are you by a window, east, northwest? I'm curious about like what the practice. I know it's like it depends on the person, but I don't. This is like I want to build an altar and include that into my meditations. So I'm just curious about what yours looks like.
Sure. What was your first question again? I'm sorry.
Do you bless or cleanse the
Yeah. Okay.
items before you put
Let's
them in the jar?
let's start there. No. um, you can. I think that is very practice specific. Um, obviously, things should be clean, right? So you should clean the jar. You should like make sure clean it, clean out whatever was previously in there, make sure it's dust free. Um, and whatever items, make sure they're clean. Um, yes, you can clean. Like cleaning and cleansing is a very simple practice for a lot of people. Salt water is kind of the go-to if you want to. Um, the reason that I didn't clean, sorry, let's go back for my thoughts. The reason I didn't do any cleansing for a lot of the items that went into my jar at the time that I was making it is because a lot of those items were already in ritual space. So the jar, obviously the trinkets that I use, or the curios that I used a lot of like trinkets that I had. The stones, the even the herbs that I was using for that situation, they were already within the ritual space. So for me, they were already taken care of. They were already prepared for this. I didn't know that that's what I was using them for. They were just like things that I was like, little magpie crow time. Um, but had they not been, cleansing them would have been a simple matter. If it is something that you would like to do, salt water is there. Thyme is another, boil some water with some thyme in it, is another way to do that. You don't need to do any sort of like strange mixtures. You don't need to buy any special soaps or anything. Um, just very simple things can be used for cleansing. Again, salt. Salt is the go-to. Um, so yeah. And if you're doing that, like I tend to focus on like the intentions of what I am doing, like what I am trying to remove or suspect I am trying to remove. Um, I want to purify, I want to make ready for the next journey that this item has, which is sitting in a jar of honey. Really, it's the last journey. Um, so that was the cleansing. Now, as far as the space that I have and the rituals that I go through, I don't necessarily, or I did not think of myself as a ritual person when I started. But as I moved through my practice and I started to uh, learn more about being truly spiritual, about what these things meant, I realized that all humans are spiritual or are ritualistic people. Like that is just a part of being human. You probably have 1,000 daily rituals that you go through and do not even realize it because you're like, these aren't, this is just how I take care of myself,
Yeah.
you know? Like but they're your rituals. They're the things that you do in your life. How you get dressed in the morning is a ritual. Like we say stuff like, oh, I just throw on my pants and my shirt and I leave. But it's like, no, like you put your pants on the same way every single day. You put your shirt, like when I get dressed, my kids have commented on this. And I'm like, y'all, stop looking at me. They're like, you do not, like when you get dressed, you put on your lotion, then you put on your bra, and then you put on your deodorant. Like that is a ritual of preparing. Like
Yes.
all of those steps are about preparing to leave my house to encounter the world. And that's my personal thing, right? We all have those daily rituals. So approaching this kind of work is also understanding that these sorts of things become their own sort of rituals. And for me, when I do this work, when I am charging my jar, when I am taking care of my altar, when I'm doing any of these things, I tend to one do them at night. Um, that's again not necessarily there are hours like when you start to get into this. There's times of days that's a little bit better, but really, what I suggest is what feels right to you. I'm a night owl, so working at night, doing things at night when I am more alone, when my time is a little bit freer, because I also have the children. I've mentioned them a couple of times. Um, feels safer and more personal than trying to get anything done at noon. But that's me. Noon might be your time. You might be like, lunchtime is meditation time. Let's do this. Um, it could be 5 p.m., it could be 5 a.m. How you interact with time is based on your feelings about your life and your own level of freedom and safety and comfort within that life. And that's what I think about timing. I think it's what time feels good. It's one thing for me to say, like, yeah, if you do this between 11 p.m. and midnight, those are the good hours. The good hours are the hours that you can do the thing. So for me, it's nighttime. But again, that's up to you. My altar space was in front of the windows. Actually, it's still in front of the window now that you bring it up. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it's still in front of a window. Um, but I don't but I don't think that the window placement has anything to do with any sort of beliefs about the window so much as it does with this is where this fit at inside of my home. Um, but I do like a light during the day. Um, but I have to be careful about that too because I do have a crystal ball. So it's like
Oh,
that has to be in the shadows or
yeah,
else it's going to burn stuff down.
yeah.
Um, so that like how you set up your altar space is really dependent on the needs of your home, um, what you can and cannot have in your home. I actually talk about this a little bit in the hoodoo book because um, not everyone can have an altar space. Not everyone has their own space at all. Not everyone has the safety to just throw up a couple of candles. So I really encourage people to really think about their altar space as to what works for them. Your altar space can be a permanent installation in your house. You could turn an entire closet into an altar space if you have that kind of freedom and space to do so. You could also just have a box. It could be a shoebox that you keep under your bed or on a desk or anywhere. Um, it really depends on your own life, what is comfortable, what is safe, what is good. Uh, your altar for me, for me, my altar, I love a good candle. So I do have a lot of stuff that is really focused on flame, like flame and air, like kind of the elements that I'm into. Um, I keep a lot of idols, like statues of deities that I have some alignment to. I do a lot of rocks and crystals and things. Um, I do divination. So I have a lot of my altar space is filled with divinatory tools, which are pendulums and coins, bones, things that I read with. Um, there are so many decks of cards. Like, so that fills a lot of my altar space. But I also have blank space that I use for temporary offerings. So when I set temporary feast, which is when I'm like, here's a plate of food for the ancestors. um, that goes there. I have space to burn where I so the things that I burn, if I'm not going to give them actual food, then it'll be like images of food, money, like any sort of offerings like that. I have space on my altar space to actually burn those things. Um, but that might not be everybody's practice. So um, you would not need that. When I am doing the work, I spend a lot of time in the process of that work, uh, calling upon the ancestors, letting them know I'm still here, that I still honor them in my practice, that I still think about them, they are not forgotten. Um, I spend a lot of time thinking about the ways that I embody my spirituality during this process. Um, I spend a lot of time disconnecting my spiritual self from my ego self, um, and then repairing that bond when it's over. Uh, those are the kind of things that I become preoccupied with during the practice of the practice. Um, but yeah, I think that covered everything.
Thank you.
ooh, we have a. Okay. Well, okay, so can one jar be used, or can we use, or should we make multiple jars if we have multiple things that we are focusing on? So, um, both yes and no, right? So I think yes, you can just have one jar. You can have one jar and put everything in there if you want. Mm, I think that is mostly fine. Um, because again, this is an accessibility question. Um, honey's kind of expensive these days. It's like $10 for a bottle of honey now. Um, did we lose a war? Yes, to tariffs. Um,
Dang.
so, right? So, like, that's an accessibility issue. Do you have the space for many of these jars? Do you have, and like, if you have an altar space, then you probably do. But if you don't, then maybe not. Do you have time to and energy to light a bunch of candles and take care of these jars individually? These are all questions to ask oneself. So if the answer to these questions is no, but you have many things in your life that you want to improve. If you are, going through your life and you're like, man, I'm broke, I'm sick all the time, everything's chaos. I need so much help. And that is a non judgmental statement, right? Because, like, I'd be going through my life like, man, I'm broke, I'm sick all the time, everything is chaos. Um, it's a season, um, then I do think it's perfectly fine to put all of that into my jar and go, I just want things to get better. I just want things to smooth over. I want to live a life that is good. And I also think that if I was doing that, like if I was putting all of my desires into one jar from across the spectrum of desire that I have, if I was putting it on one jar, I think that part of my practice with that jar would really be meditating and braiding it all together and really figuring out the ways that, and using that time that I'm in that space to really start to untangle like what it is I want and where things are going wrong, and like how can I focus on um getting the energy right in those areas. And like for me, as a person who practices hoodoo, like those are all questions that I would take to the ancestors during my meditative practice. Those would be all things that I'm like, all right, grandma, please guide me. That's not a joke. I do be talking to my grandma.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, when I think about this practice, I think a lot about our ancestors who gave us this practice. Um, a lot of times they didn't have their own space. They didn't have control over their time. They lived in a world, as we sometimes still do, where the message is not only are you not sacred, but you're not even human. And it was about creating space to say that whatever I'm doing in my life, whatever I'm going through, whatever space I have, that's sacred. If all I can do is clean this house, that's sacred practice. And I'm a sacred being moving through that, and my spirit matters, like finding those places of joy, you know? And yeah, living in spirit, living in our humanity, despite what's going on. Um, to shout out another author we know, um, Janine Cook just came out with a book, It's Me They Follow. And one of the lines that really stuck with me is, I deserve sweetness. And it was said over and over again in the novel, and it kind of stuck in my head. And that's one of the main things I wanted folks to get out of this workshop, is that you deserve sweetness no matter where you are in your life, no matter what your altar space looks like, what your practice looks like. It's personal to you. And we all have a spirit. We all have those connections to the ancestors without whom we wouldn't be here. So this is accessible to all of us, no matter what your religious practices, um, our lives are sacred. Our lives are rituals. We are living altars. So, yeah.
Deserve sweetness is a petition in and of itself. You can just write that down. Just stick that in the jar.
Hmm. Yeah. Did y'all have any other questions for Donyae?
My
Sarah,
only,
let's see.
the only thing I wanted, thank you both for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful. I just wanted to know there were the dates were for both days. Is this the same information for both days, or are there two different workshops?
So tomorrow is a pre-recorded session with artist Naomi Moma. And she went through a complete overview of altar building from different cultural perspectives. She's Nigerian, and I don't remember her particular tribal identity, but she talks about that, and she talks about the specificity of her ancestral practice and what they do. But she also gives an overview of different types of altars from Asia to you know, because she's a Christian, there is an altar in Christianity. There are altars. So she talks about altars as a global cultural practice, and something that's accessible to all of us. I think we even talked about how our grandmothers would have those carefully curated dresser tops or vanities, where they might have a mirror, you've got your hairbrush, you've got that beautiful perfume bottle that all of our grandmothers had. Like that was a type of altar, maybe your Bible was sitting there. I know with my family, there was hoodoo practiced, but it was very hush hush, you know. It was something that wasn't spoken about. So I find from this generation reclaiming those practices and taking a deep dive into what they weren't able to fully explore, you know?
Thank you for that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I thank y'all all so much for being here. Um, from a tiny farm wagon perspective, from an arts and wellness perspective, I look at hoodoo not just as a spiritual practice, but as an art practice. I believe that as Black people, our arts are practical. Um, they're not just something that we hang in a gallery, but it's how we live our lives in a constant call and response with ourselves and the world. I see it as a practice in connecting us to the earth, reconnecting us to the earth as our ancestors were connected to it. And yeah, I just want to make it something that although it is a private practice, I don't want this generation to be ashamed of it. And I'm so proud of the way that we're embracing our cultural arts, even though they were demonized. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Oh, Rhonda, do you have another question? Your hand's still up.
Yeah, I just had a real quick question.
Okay.
Donyae, do you do consultations or do you do like other kind of workshops or like gatherings or things for this type
Um,
of work?
I do. So I am a tarot reader. I do read tarot. I do coaching. And if you were going to, if you wanted a spiritual consultation, right? That's that sounds like I'm gonna do something now. But like if you wanted to talk to me more about that, I would just take that under the same the coaching that I would do for writing. I would just take that in as the same way. Does that make sense? Like you would send me an email and you would be like, "Hi, I want to have a session with you for this thing."
Can you put your email in the chat so folks can have that, Nanye?
Yeah,
And Nanye also does writing coaching. So
I do.
again, this is her book, Midnight Rooms. It's a gothic horror and yeah, horror and hoodoo are very related to me because folklore, and sometimes I put horror under that umbrella. It's a way of teaching lessons through the fantastic, you know? So, yeah, like whatever the storyteller's imagination can come up with, like within that lesson teaching, you know, yeah, as long as it's in this, it is all in the service of culture and understanding life and meaning and processing, you know, the experiences and the culture that we have, you know. So yeah, those two disciplines to me go hand in hand. If you go also to Donyae's website, not only does she have this book, but she's got like dozens of short stories that have been published in all the best journals. Just
Oh,
really, really dynamic writer that I've been connecting with over the years. And she's just a lot of inspiration to me on my writing journey, just like how fiercely and how just like the belief in yourself and just like your accomplishment, I just really admire and appreciate. And, you know, it builds the community. Oh, and your website, Donyae.
fudge. I just
Yep,
dropped it in there.
DonyaeColes.com.
That's right. I got my own name for my website. Thank you so much. That's so lovely, Miss T. Oh my God.
Yes, yes. So I will follow up with links to Donyae's books, links to the other book that I mentioned, and a couple other titles that I have on my shelf. And then if you want to reply with if you've got some resources that I didn't mention, books or films or anything like that, I'd love to keep sharing. Yeah, so I'm gonna let y'all go. And I hope that we feel a little bit of inspiration. We feel some of that sweetness, and we're inspired to reset and rest and really think about our intentions and what we deserve and what we want to bring into our lives in the new year and beyond. So I will see y'all tomorrow at 7, pre-recorded workshop about altar building.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
Peace.
right. Thank
All
you, everyone.
right, y'all have a good one.
Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.